Welcome to LearnComputerScienceOnline.com, and in this video, we are going to discuss what is machine cycle. In this tutorial, you will learn machine cycle and the difference between instruction cycle and the machine cycle. Further, how CPU executes the program instructions and the various steps involved for one machine cycle. Let us start with the CPU. The CPU stands for Central Processing Unit. The CPU is the brain of the computer system, which provides the processing power to the computer system. The CPU controls all the operations performed by the computer system, including the activities necessary to execution the program. The machine cycle is the main activity performed by the Central Processing Unit to execute the program instruction. The machine cycle is also alternately referred to as instruction cycle. However, the machine cycle is a part of instruction cycle, whereas the instruction cycle is the process initiated by the CPU to execute one program instruction. Let us now discuss both machine cycle and the instruction cycle in detail. Let us first start with understanding the instruction cycle. The computer program consists of a number of program statements. These statements are also referred as the program instruction. During the program execution, the operating system loads the program into the main system memory, RAM. The CPU initiates the program execution by fetching these instructions, one by one, from the main memory RAM. The machine cycle is part of instruction cycle, and therefore, let us first understand what is instruction cycle. In simple terms, the instruction cycle is the time taken by the CPU to execute one program instruction. The CPU is driven by a stream of clock pulses generated by the system clock. This stream of clock cycles helps the CPU to synchronize all the activities. For each clock tick, the CPU executes a part of the machine cycle. The instruction cycle is the sequence of steps executed by the computer CPU to execute one single instruction. The instruction cycle consists of sequence of following steps. First, read the instruction from the memory. Second, decode the instruction. Third, find the address of the operand. Fourth, retrieve the operand from the memory. Fifth, perform the desired operation on the operand. Sixth, find the address of the destination memory. And finally, store the result into the destination memory. Let us now understand what is machine cycle. In order to execute a program instruction, the CPU repetitively performs a sequence of 4 steps. This sequence of 4 steps is called a machine cycle. The machine cycle is executed in 4 steps. These 4 steps include the 2 operations, such as fetch, decode, execute, and finally, store. The machine cycle is a part of the instruction cycle. In order to complete one single instruction cycle, the CPU might need either one or more machine cycles, which depends upon the complexity of the program instruction. Similarly, each part of the machine cycle needs a number of clock ticks to complete some part of the machine cycle, such as fetch, decode, execute, or the store operation. Let us now dive a bit deeper into the machine cycle to understand the various steps in the machine cycle. The fetch part of the machine cycle includes fetching the program instruction from memory. The CPU initiates the program execution by fetching the program instruction and the corresponding data from the main system memory, RAM. The decode part of the machine cycle includes decoding the program instruction. The control unit inside the CPU decodes the program instruction as per the whose own architecture. Each processor chip implements a set of binary commands which defines the various operations performed by the CPU. This set of binary command is called as Instruction Set Architecture, ISA, of the CPU. The control unit inside the CPU chip generates the necessary signals for the arithmetic logic unit to perform the desired operation on the operal. The execute part of the machine cycle includes the actual execution of the program instruction by the CPU. The arithmetic logic unit of the CPU then performs the desired operation on the operal. Each program instruction consists of two parts. First part is OP code, and the second part is the address of the operal. The OP code directs the arithmetic logic unit, or LU, to operate on the data, as per the instruction set architecture of the CPU. The instruction set architecture for a processor chip is a set of binary commands supported by the CPU. The final stage of the machine cycle includes storing the processed data back into the memory. Once the LU operates on the data, the processed data is then sent and stored into the main memory, RAM. This stored data in RAM can either be sent to any output device, such as monitor, or the printer, or to any permanent storage device to be stored for future use. Let us now quickly summarize the machine cycle. The machine cycle is the basic operation of the CPU. The CPU continuously executes the machine cycle while performing the various operations. The machine cycle consists of sequence of 4 steps, which include the CPU operations, such as fetch, decode, execute, and finally, store. Please read the detailed article on our website, learncomputerscienceonline.com, for more details. That brings us to the end of this tutorial. And in this tutorial, we have discussed what is machine cycle. We also discussed the difference between the machine cycle and the instruction cycle, and how CPU executes the program instructions. If you had liked this video, then
Okay, so how was it? Is it clear for you? What is the meaning of machine cycle? Class? Alright, so basically machine cycle is a set of repetitive cycle performed by CPU, isn't it, in a computer system? So that one we call as machine cycle. Okay, so basically it is comprises of the four what we call that? 4 operations, isn't it? Okay, so for operations, so the first one is fetch. Okay, fetch is obtaining the program instruction or data from memory. Okay, this is what processor do. Okay, fetch the instruction, and then the processor will decode the instruction. Decodes here means convert or translate the instruction into the form that the computer can understand. Okay, and then after that, it will execute the instruction. Okay, execute over here means carry out the task needs to be performed by the instruction yang dia dah fetch tadi tu. Okay, and then the next one, the store, isn't it? Okay, store means write the results to memory. In this case, store to write the result to the memory. Okay, so this is the CPU machine cycle. Okay, first fetch, second decode, next execute, and the last one, store. Okay, so I hope you are clear about this. Okay, so tu yang penting lah sebenarnya. Terms yang penting dekat sini adalah machine cycle. Okay, because it is related to the operations performed by the CPU. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Okay, so kalau kita go through bawah semua ni. Okay, so this is again about RAM. Okay, RAM, nanti kita akan cover lagi sekali sebenarnya RAM tu. Okay, power supply, okay, computer software, okay. So computer software ni is more on chapter 3 nanti. Okay, so but then you can go through to get to know more about chapter 3 later on by using this page. Okay, and dekat bawah ni semua dah cerita lain lah. Okay, tapi kalau kita nak tengok pun, okay, we can look at this one. So this is the progress of computer system. Okay, daripada transistor, okay, dia dah jadi microprocessor lah. Alright. So nanti awak boleh go through lah nanti. Okay, so that's it. This is the first part of bukan the first lah. Boleh lah the first The first part of our lecture ni, section 2 ni. Oh, dah tak nampak sangat ni? Okay, tak apa. Mari saya betulkan balik. Stop sharing. Okay, kalau macam ni okay tak? Is it clearer now? Okay, good. So you can see two content or you can just see one? Only one, okay. So how about now? Two, okay, good. Okay, good, alright, okay, good. So now boleh nampak dua Oh, okay, tak apa, dah berubah tempat pula. Okay, tak apa. So, okay, so let's take a look at this one. So just now we had go through the section 2 in this link, okay, which covered about section 2 tadi cover apa? Computer system kan? Okay, about computer system. But basically what you need to understand about this is mana pula? Okay, kat sini. Okay, so section 2 ni introduction to computer system. So basically what you need to understand is the hardware that make up the computer system lah sebenarnya dalam chapter ni. Okay, but just now kita dah go through some part of it. Okay, kita dah masuk dekat motherboard, lepas tu kita dah tengok CPU, lepas tu kita tengok dia punya operation ataupun function of CPU, the last one tadi machine cycle tu. And then before that kita dah tengok dekat certain components lah. Okay, ada yang dekat dalam system unit ada apa semua tu kan. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So I hope you are still okay with me. Okay, kita tengok dekat second one ni, section 5. Okay, section 5 ni is more on CPU itself. Okay, so kalau refer dekat slide ni, 2564 ni, this one is referring to the sections on the web page over here lah. 2564. Okay, so kita tengok sikit dekat sini komputer CPU ni. Okay, so let's take a look at the computer CPU. So basically kita dah tengok sikit tadi CPU, and then ni sebenarnya macam repetition sikit lah. Okay, repetition ataupun kita fahamkan lagi about CPU. Okay, so when we say CPU, in terms of computer, we are referring to the processor chip. Macam yang apa kita nampak dekat dalam figure ni lah. Okay, and then if we compare processor chip dengan human punya operation, okay, so processor chip ni macam kita punya brain. Okay, so sebenarnya komputer dengan kita ni lebih kurang, bukan lebih kurang lah, maksudnya there are certain parts in computer also available in us. Okay, for example, kita ada input, kita ada output also, isn't it? So processor pun kita ada memory, kita ada storage. So the same thing, right? Okay, so when we compare human with computer, so brain is our CPU lah, our processor. Okay, and then just now kita dah tengok apa tu CPU, alright? Okay, so again, if we look further inside the computer system block diagram, so this is with regard to the hardware. Okay, with regard to the hardware of a computer system. So just now, if you can still recall, okay, just now kita tengok dekat tadi on the previous section kan,